John TheMorgile here. Vertical. So very vertical here. I just don't know about YouTube, man. So like I set up the stream to do on my phone, and of course, if you don't set it ahead of time to be horizontally laid out, it won't let you just go live with the thing set up horizontally. It makes you rotate it. And if you try to go back to adjust the settings, there's no way to do it. You're basically, so now I hope y'all are on your phones. I guess it's better if you're on your phone, but wow, like I don't think that it's necessary to have all that maximum headroom, please. God almighty. So now that lamp's all in y'all's eyes and everything. What's up, Brian Hawk? How's it going, man? So anyway, yeah, so I guess y'all are gonna have me vertical instead. That seems weird to me, but whatever. Several things that we can talk about. I've got a few things on my docket, but as you notice, that there's two things on the title card, so we'll definitely talk about at least those two things, being one being the Go Fast rocket, and two being good old Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. And when they say Supreme Court, Supreme Justice or Justice Supreme, it means they come with diced tomatoes and sour cream, right? Anyway, it's such a stupid joke, but I don't know. They dress like freaking priests or something. It's so weird. All right, let me make sure we got sound here. Yeah, sound is working. All right, so let's get started. I know y'all probably have to sit through an ad or two while we pile in, so. But yeah, so I got, man, I can't believe I'm gonna use the word triggered on purpose, but I got kind of triggered seeing a video, I'm not gonna say any names, but fairly big names in flat earth. Wow, it went from 20 back down to 9. That's so weird. I'm seeing it out of the corner of my eye. It does that new rolling thing. I'm like, I swear it just said 20 and now it's back down to 9. Very strange. No, anyways, so fairly prominent flat earth proponent talking about the Go Fast rocket launch in public venues, just making all sorts of, in my opinion, nonsensical positive claims about the Go Fast rocket launch. And so if you're not familiar, and I guess, wait a minute, so before we even get started with any of that, we'll circle back to it, but say a quick prayer, send some prayers up for the people in Palestine, man. Just pray up to the Most High that, he works his miracles to help the innocent people that are going through such terrible tumult, what is effectively ethnic cleansing, war crimes against them, and yet somehow the entire Christendom is all behind the wholesale slaughter of innocent men, women, and children, which is just absolutely ridiculous to me. But yeah, prayers going up for Palestine, man. I pray that that ordeal is over quickly, and the Most High, takes it easy on the innocents, man. So anyway, wanted to get that in there before we go any further. But so anyway, if you're not familiar with the Go Fast rocket, it's been several years ago now, but it's pretty popular among flat earth circles because, well, so what a lot of people claim is that they claim this rocket is hitting the dome, and what they use for proof is, so I'm not going to share the video because it will get copyright taken down, but I will play the audio part for you guys. you should be able to hear it. If my silly ass computer would catch up, it's coming, I promise. But so what these people are saying is just all kinds of positive claims that you know, this rocket ends up hitting the dome, or it ends up going into the liquid of space because of certain sounds that it makes and because of its behavior. So there, the rocket's being launched. You can't see it, but this is the sound of it. And surely y'all have seen this anyways, but what's going to happen is once it quiets down a little bit, you're going to hear some sounds. You guys have all seen this. So the first sound, the rocket stops its very fast gyroscopic spinning. And should happen any second now for the first de-spin mechanism, which is, there it was right there. So I don't know if y'all could even hear that, but so this rocket launches and it's a like point of view camera, and it's spinning super fast right up to the point to where you hear that first sound, which what it sounds exactly like is it sounds exactly like you would think a de-spin mechanism sounds like, which is basically, so inside the nose cone of the rocket, they allegedly had like these centrifugal yo-yo devices that are attached to a string with a weight that are intended to keep it from spinning, which is exactly what happens. Now, one thing that I did hear get brought up was that one of the main guys that was involved with the Go Fast rocket launch was some kind of a special effects guy in the movie industry. That very well may be true, but so like personally, I don't think the Go Fast rocket footage is fake. So I'm not going to go so far as to make that claim. I think it actually seems pretty legit in terms of footage. But in the 45 or 50 seconds that it's ascending, there's no way that it went more than a few miles, right? Like, let me read the article about it to tell you how fast they claim that it went, but that's besides the point. So based on that sound, and I'll play it again. So here's that first sound. That was it right there. It's a de-spin mechanism, which according to the people that built that rocket and sent it up, it was so that they could get this clear, not spinning shot of the ground below. It didn't hit any sort of dome. It didn't hit any sort of liquid or ionized barrier, nothing. It just stopped spinning because of the de-spin mechanism. That's it. And then the second sound comes a few seconds later, and I'm sure y'all probably, there's the second sound, and it's the basically a bunch of bolts fly off the thing and it loses its primary stage rocket, which you see then falling down to the earth below. And then the thing starts to go all wonky because, of course, it's now off balance because of that explosion. But so you've got flat earthers, and I'll play the sound again. I'm sorry if y'all can't hear it very good. That was it. So here comes the second sound. And you can see the rocket stage literally falling off of the thing. Dude, like, I wish that these damn flurfers, God love them, would stop making fools of us all with these just really bizarre, sort of nonsensical, positive claims that first of all, appeared to be totally false, like not even close to true. But it's almost like they're trying to spin a narrative to make the flat Earth concept seem more, what, I don't even know, mysterious, or seem like have more mystique about it or something. I don't know. I don't know what they're trying to achieve with this by making these sort of bizarre, nonsensical, positive claims about things like the Go Fast rocket launch. But it's pretty obvious. I mean, they go on to mention things about the moon being visible when it should be on the other side of the ball Earth. But there's tons of examples of that. Like, why? I don't understand why people are going to go out on a limb to make fools of themselves about something that, and really make fools of all of us sort of by proxy, by making these absurd claims. So Lawrence Williams, you think the whole thing's fake? The Go Fast rocket launch? I don't know, maybe it is. They've been faking that sort of thing. So let me read the article about the Go Fast rocket launch. I thought I had it pulled up. Hold on. Yeah. So yeah, they say flat Earth sovereign UNFE is definitely not a flat earther. Yeah, I've never got into QNFE much, man. Like, I think Bob tried to like promote him a few times back in the day. But like, when I tried to sit down and watch his stuff, he just, I don't know, maybe it's a language barrier or something, but I never thought that he did much but just like point and laugh at people, you know what I mean, without really making any cogent points. But so the Civilian Space Exploration Team, also known as the CSXT, the team of around 30 civilians interested in private space flight. The team was created by Kai Michelson. And let's see. So Kai Michelson, there is no page for Kai Michelson. So that's, here we go. 2014 Go Fast. July 14th, 2014, the team repeated their accomplishments, so they had previous launches, allegedly, with a second successful space launch, which set new records for the highest and fastest amateur rocket launch ever. Analysis of the data from the recovered military-grade inertial measurement unit that flew on board shows that the Go Fast rocket reached an altitude of 385,000 feet, or 73 miles above mean sea level, and hit a top speed of 3,580 miles an hour. I just find that really hard to believe, man. Really hard to believe. Because let's see, busting out my little trusty calculator here. It was accelerating. It was like, so before it started despinning and decoupling from its, from its first stage booster thing or whatever they call it, it was like 45 or 50 seconds. So they're saying that thing went 73 miles from 0 to 73 miles in like 45 or 50 seconds. So let's just see here. Sorry, it takes forever for my computer to do anything. I apologize. I'm sitting here trying to stall while this freaking thing loads the pocket calculator. It takes it forever just to do that. Cody's ACC says they fooled me at one point with them people in the Challenger. Well, you know, the thing is, you can definitely launch a rocket up high, like nobody's disputing that. But the thing is you're not going to put people on it and go into orbit with it. Like, in order to orbit, you've got to have ball Earth in space. So without ball Earth, you don't have space, you don't have orbit. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely nonsense. And it does appear that most of the people that supposedly died in the Challenger explosion appear to have doppelgangers, that many of them have the same name. 2 of them have identical twins, conveniently, you know. So I'm pretty sure that that those claims about the Challenger are, crew living today, surviving, are true. I've never met any of those people. I don't know for sure, but it does appear that that is 100% true. So we'll say that even it was a full minute, and they said 73 miles. So they said it went 3,580 miles an hour. So to get the per second, you got to do 3,580 times 60 times 60. No, I'm sorry. What am I doing? Times 3,580 divided by 60 divided by 60 is 1 mile per second. Okay. And that's at the max speed. I'm sure it didn't reach its max speed immediately, but so even if it was, well, they're saying about a mile a second. You know, it would have taken it 73 seconds at the top speed to get to 73 miles, which, yeah, so even just a little hip pocket calculation, it doesn't add up. So the claim that I heard was that one of the main guys involved with the rocket launch was somehow involved with special effects, some kind of movie effects. So that's what I was wanting to try to see, but I'm not sure what his name is. If anybody knows the guy's name that was part of that Go Fast rocket launch team, who was supposedly involved in movie magic or whatever, I'd love to see it. It's entirely possible that they did fake it. But it's funny because so the Go Fast rocket launch there was a claim attached to that made me sort of stumble upon a very valid and important, in my opinion, flat Earth proof, which has to do with the moon being in the wrong place based on its phases, right? Because with the Go Fast rocket launch, there's a couple of frames where you see the moon over the horizon from the vantage point of wherever the Go Fast rocket was launched. I guess it was Arizona or something like that. What was it? New Mexico? I can't remember, but it's irrelevant. At any rate, the moon is visible, and the claim was made that you shouldn't have been able to see the moon from that point on ball Earth, and so there was supposedly another flat Earth proof. But it was because of that claim that I got to thinking, well, okay, how could we determine, first of all, where the moon should be? And I was starting this from the perspective of the whole seasonal variance of visible space thing, right? So if you're humoring the ball Earth theory, you should have every 6 months the direction in visible space changing 180 degrees based on the whole entire heliocentric model. So like in springtime, or we'll say winter, you are west of the sun, and in 6 months later, as you traveled around the sun, hypothetically, in visible space would be east of the sun. So visible space should be changing directions based on the season. And you should have exclusive stars and constellations depending on the season. Okay, now we don't see that, but in reality, it's not observed. It's just something that should be observed were the heliocentric model true, but we don't see that. But an extension of that, we should similarly be able to tell where the moon is in relation to the sun and the earth based on the moon's phases, right? And so the whole claim tied to the Go Fast rocket launch got me thinking down this line because, I had always sort of considered it was going to be complex and convoluted to try to figure out like where in space the moon should be. But technically, it's not that complicated because, well, first of all, according to the heliocentric model, they claim that the moon more or less adheres to the ecliptic plane, which is the Earth's plane of orbit, more or less. They say that the moon's plane of orbit is merely 5 degrees like offset to the Earth's plane of orbit. It's their model. And so more or less, you can say that the moon adheres to the ecliptic plane. And then, of course, the phases of the moon are supposedly based on the moon orbiting the Earth. And so, I've said it a million times, but the full moon phase should be 180 degrees opposite the sun. And the no moon phase should be, aligned to the sun on the same side of the ball Earth as the sun. And then, of course, the half moon phases should be flanking ball Earth according to the sun, right? All of these according to an Earth observer, an observer on the Earth. But so anyways, as it turns out, the moon is in the damn wrong place sometimes. So like sometimes you'll see the full moon in broad daylight hours. It'll be, traversing the ecliptic plane as it usually does. Full stark moon or 90% full stark moon in broad daylight hours, traveling across the ecliptic plane when it should be, underneath your feet 250,000 miles away on the dark side of the Earth. And similarly, the same sort of thing goes with the crescent moon, which should be strictly aligned to the day side of the Earth. And yet anybody that's observed the heavens for any length of time and looked at the moon knows that you'll get like these fingernail moons. It looks like a little fingernail, crescent moon in the middle of the night sometimes, which is frankly, geometrically, categorically impossible according to the very ball Earth geometry that is very much observable. Like ball Earth geometry should be observable. And frankly, the geometry that's demanded by the very heliocentric model is not observed in nature. If you just think about it, if you actually try to skeptically analyze reality to determine whether or not it matches with what they're telling us in terms of the ball Earth model or the heliocentric standard model. And time again, it never fails. Basically every instance always shows that the ball Earth theory is at loggerheads with, observable reality. So that's a huge problem. The moon has a face, yeah. D-Rex says, I can see so many things moving across the sky at night now. I don't know what kind of things, like what do you mean? Sure. Whether it's meteors or satellites, which, people see the ISS too, which, that's pretty damn good evidence that the ISS isn't a football field object some 300 miles away, as they claim, or 250, right? Just based on the law of angular sizes, right? Like if you think about it, they claim that the ISS, the International Space Station, is about, we'll say 250 miles in altitude. and it's about the size of a football field, more or less. If you think about, so we'll say a jumbo jet, a 767 or something, when they get up to 5 or 6 miles, you can barely see them, right? It's a dot, just a dot. You'll be lucky to see it. Now think of a jumbo jet that is 10 times that or 20 times that distance. You'd never hope to see it. Sometimes you actually lose sight of the jumbo jet when it gets up to 35,000 feet, right? You can't see it for, infinite distances. And so although the LISS is claimed to be a bit bigger than a jumbo jet, not by a whole lot, and frankly, if an object the size of a football field is 250 miles away, you would never expect to be able to resolve that sort of minute angular size with the human eye, or even with the good optics, because frankly, it's just too damn far, in my opinion. And there's a hip pocket calculation that you can do. So like if you take an object's diameter, right? So say it's a coin with an inch diameter, you can estimate that object's vanishing point in terms of the eye's inability to render it any longer with 3,000 times the diameter, right? So 3,000 inches, figure that up. So like we'll do, oh, and I just messed up here. Yeah, I accidentally moved the taskbar, so I gotta wait. Such a train of thought breaker, but okay. Come on, baby. Yeah, it's just okay. So 3,000 divided by we'll say 12 for inches into feet, 250. 250 feet. So you would expect a coin an inch in diameter to lose its resolution with the human eye at a distance of 250 feet away, if that makes sense. So you can do a similar sort of calculation or estimate with any object. And when you remove a football field size object 200 or 300 miles, there's just no possible way you would expect to resolve that with the naked eye. And furthermore, the LISS is not claimed to be self-luminous, so you would have to rely upon reflected sunlight to see it. And so, the fact that you can see something flying through the sky with the naked eye that is called the LISS proves that it is not the thing that NASA says that it is, at the very least. And what it is, it could be any number of things. I'm not going to speculate, but frankly, orbit, the physical act of orbit requires a spherical Earth in theory. And so if there's no curvature, then the Earth cannot be a sphere. And so something like orbit is merely fantasy. Doesn't exist. So, man, I'll get off the go fast rocket thing. Oh, no, I'm not going to get off the go fast rocket thing. I was curious to follow up on this thing. I guess I won't do it live with you guys, but definitely if anybody knows more about this than me, I had never heard of this. And, I never really got too much into the go fast rocket launch, other than to say, to beg flurfers to stop making claims about the dome and about the liquid in space, because it's just absolute, that sort of rhetoric is nonsense, in my opinion. There's perfectly plausible explanation for those noises that you hear on the video, if the video's even real. So let's see. Go fast rocket team special effects. Maybe I'll just find it with that sort of a generic search. Go fast rocket proves the Earth is round is the top search result. Anyways, yeah, I just because see, this is what gets me about it. Flat Earth has so many valid, cogent arguments that can be made for it. I mean, it's obvious. The proof is everywhere. Like, it's amazing that they got away with that deception for so long. It's quite astonishing, really. And so there's no reason, there's no need to sensationalize these bold and grandiose and nonsensical claims about things that can easily be refuted with just simple logic. It makes the whole thing look just so foolish, man. PJ says you can see the moon in the go fast background. Right. So that was another one of these. That's what I was talking about a minute ago. So when the go fast rocket first happened, or when it was first being discussed, like way back early on in the whole flat Earth awakening, that claim about the moon being in the wrong place was made. And again, that got me thinking down the line, well, first of all, how would you determine where the moon should be according to the heliocentric model? And then you can determine, well, where the moon is visibly, does that match up with the theory? And frankly, again, the easiest way to determine where the moon is in the ball Earth hypothesis is based on its phase. So again, full moon would position the moon 180 degrees opposite the sun. No moon positions the moon aligned to the sun. The two half moon phases would be flanking the Earth according to an observer on the sun, right? And so based on just that, and the fact that the day side of the Earth is more or less fixed temporarily, we can very easily tell where the moon should be based on the model. And it's just all the time, like not every time, but even one single time, which has been more than that. But even if the moon was in the wrong place once ever, that's enough to debunk the ball Earth theory. I remember growing up, again, this is an anecdote I tell all the time, because I was told as a little kid that the Native Americans, or some tribe of Native Americans, said that it was good luck to view the full moon during broad daylight. I don't know why, that was just something that I heard. And so I would always be on the lookout for full moons in broad daylight. And once in a while, not every month, not even regularly, but every so often, if you pay attention to the moon and you look for it, you'll find times when it can be 11 or 12 o'clock in the afternoon, 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and you'll see the full moon in the middle of the broad blue daylight, which is physically not possible according to the very simple geometry demanded by the ball Earth, right? So go fast rockets out of the way. The other portion of the title card was Brett Kavanaugh, and we'll get to him. We'll get to Brett. But what I really wanted to talk about today, and by the way, my immediate crisis is averted. So I'm not going to be thrown out in the street today, or even before Thanksgiving. So I'm not going to be homeless for Thanksgiving, thank God. And thanks to my channel supporters. Love you guys. Patreon members, all y'all are the best. I appreciate you. Couldn't do it without you, really. So thank God for that. I'm not going to be on the street for Thanksgiving. So praise be to the Most High. But what I really wanted to talk about was money in general, because, you know, it's a topic that none of us can avoid. We all have to deal with money on some level, and it's unavoidable. You can't live in modern society without using currency. It's been argued that the love of money is the root of all evil, and I think there may be some wisdom to that. But inherently, I would say that money isn't evil. The US dollar probably is, I think, inherently evil, but the concept of a currency is necessary for complex society, right? So like bartering is a good thing. I think I saw that mentioned in the chat. You know, bartering is definitely a good way to do commerce, but bartering can only take you so far, right? It's like, what if 25 chickens is worth a cow and a half, right? So you can't rightly trade someone 25 chickens for a cow and a half of a cow. So you have to have some sort of placeholders to account for transactions, right? So there's not always going to be a barter, an even exchange in a sort of barter system. So in a sense, money is necessary. But what makes it evil, and not just the love of money, but what makes especially the US dollar or any fiat currency evil, could be if, let's say, hypothetically, inherently evil people got a hold of the ability to, say, control an entire nation's wealth. And unfortunately, you know, that's exactly what's happened with the US dollar, starting in, 1912 at the very latest. 1912 was, of course, or was it 1913 when the Federal Reserve Act was signed into law in secret over the Christmas holiday by a handful of the richest men in the world, behind the back of Congress in a secret meeting unbeknownst to the American people, where they basically set up a cartel in order to control the entire nation's monetary supply. And this is a private group of basically evil people that were already immensely wealthy when they did this. And in 1912, 1913, they've been siphoning money away from us, the people, slowly over time using this hidden tax called inflation, which, you know, it's so funny because like the news pundits, the talking heads of today that are all over the media, who won't really mention anything about, you know, things like Elon Musk's company destroying $5 or $10 billion worth of rockets for nothing. They won't tell you that really much in America, but you know, these pundits will tell you things like, or they sort of try to play this role that the money or the inflation is like sort of a natural byproduct of money itself. Like inflation is this natural, unavoidable thing that nobody really understands why it's happening, right? Or they kind of do, you know, it's because the government prints too much money, but really the heart of inflation is because the oligarchs, the private individuals, the private group of banks who are in charge of creating our currency and managing the value of our currency, have been stealing from us for over 100 years. That's what the Federal Reserve, which is not federal and holds no reserves, it's what they were set up to do. Their official corporate charter was allegedly to prevent inflation and to prevent stock market crashes, which we all know within 2 decades of the Federal Reserve being created and the act being signed, we got the Great Depression. Okay. And on top of that, our money has been inflated into less than 5% of its original value back in 1912. And by the way, it is no coincidence that the Titanic sunk in 1912 either. It's not a coincidence that J.P. Morgan Yeah, the same guy who basically prevented Nikola Tesla's ideas from being, powering the world freely since 1912. That same guy, J.P. Morgan, is the one who made up the VIP guest list for the Titanic's maiden voyage. And it's been argued that the Titanic wasn't even actually the Titanic. It was the Olympic or the Britannic one. There was three sister ships. But at any rate, we've kind of got sidetracked. But the thing is, there were some of the richest people in the world on the Titanic when it sank that potentially could have pushed back against the sort of secretive creation of the Federal Reserve back in 1913. And so by killing off like the Astors, I want to say the Guggenheims, like these big wigs of finance back in that time, who potentially could have, pushed back against the Fed, weren't around anymore, because when you're, dead at the bottom of the ocean, you can't do much pushing back against the Fed now, can you? Right? So it is no coincidence. And, that's the sort of links that these people will go to in order to control everybody and steal all of our money. Evil people. And, really the term people is used very loosely for these sorts of things, because, like, frankly, I don't think you can technically call someone a people who is just basically completely psychopathic, psychotic, greedy to the point of just malicious, hubris, the whole nine. So the point of that sort of excursion is, let's say hypothetically, right? So just go with me here. I'm going out on a limb. But let's say hypothetically that the people who are in control of the money supply, let's say hypothetically that they are evil, okay? Well, they have the capability to basically run everything, because let's face it, if you control a nation's monetary supply, you control everything from the politicians to the military. And the reason that this is that they're capable of this is the whole hierarchy, right? The pyramid power structure that's on the dollar bill, even this sort of top-down corporate fascist setup of things, where you've got a small group of people or even a single entity at the top of this power structure that dictates orders from the top down. And as the rank and files go down the pyramid, people are just yes-sirring it all the way down. They're going to follow orders, be expelled from the organization. And so, from the generals to the captains to the privates, just like in the military or any corporate structure, you have these evil people sitting at the top of these power structures, dictating evil orders down the ranks to, usually by the time you get to the bottom of the pyramid, you've got decent people that are doing evil things for that dollar. It's how, people can live a life being a prison guard or like a jailhouse guard, treating human beings like animals all day long, many of which really don't deserve to be there. I mean, sure, you could argue that there are violent criminals that deserve to be in jail or in prison, but for the most part, people that are in jail or prison are there for non-violent crimes. And frankly, to treat a human being like an animal and take away their freedoms, take away their livelihood, lock them in a cage for victimless crimes is extremely evil. In my opinion, that's extremely evil. But at the same time, it's a respectable career field, and people willingly pay for that for-profit prison industry with their tax dollars. Where sitting at the top of the for-profit prison industry, you've got these evil suits getting rich off of the prison industry, right? It's crazy, but the reason that our world can be manipulated into this sort of just delusional, psychopathic, nonsensical mindset is because the people sitting on top of the money supply are hypothetically evil, right? But do we have to participate in it? Like, yeah, I mean, you could argue that there is no way to opt out of it unless everybody does. So like, I can't just opt out of using the dollar, right? Or me and you can't. Everybody's got to do it. And as long as everybody is brainwashed by this system, then, it's never going to happen, which that's kind of why I believe awareness and just raising awareness is so important, especially for the whole flurfer thing, because it is indeed all connected, as I feel I've demonstrated before, but we'll try to continue demonstrating here. So logistically, how are they doing this? So we all know about the fractional reserve thing, and they have the ability to create the wealth out of thin air, which is then loaned to the government at interest, and then loaned to members FDIC at interest, then loaned to the general public at interest. So it's all the whole thing is set up as a basically usury scam. It's a scam set up to enrich the evil oligarchs sitting at the top of the pyramid. Could you imagine having the ability to invent wealth out of thin air, to loan to governments and to loan to nations at interest? A lot of people don't realize this, but all of our tax dollars, people think that goes to like paying for bridges and public works and things like that. But really, our tax dollars go towards paying back the debt that we owe the Federal Reserve, the non-federal, non-reserve. And it doesn't even cover the interest. So we're sort of upside down in our loan to these evil people sitting on top of the money supply that have been stealing from us for over 100 years, and there ain't nothing we can do about it. Well, I mean, I guess there is, but I think first we've got to get them to stop poisoning our water supply with the sodium fluoride, the developmental neurotoxin, right? But they also use these secret societies like the Freemasons or the OTO, or really it's all based on Kabbalah. It's all based on the mystery religions, where these people take blood oaths and swear themselves to secrecy, swear themselves to their basically clan or whatever, their boys club. And they're able to effectively control people through that way. And I believe they also sort of pluck up psychopathic tendency people, like, and let them move up the ranks of society and move up the ranks of politics. Like our boy Brett Kavanaugh, that we're going to get back to in a minute, I promise. So basically, what they know is, because these people ain't stupid, right? They know that the sort of royals throughout history, if they're nefarious and evil and dubious royalty, which they tend to be, the people are eventually going to revolt, right? And so in America, they're kind of genius what they've done. They've set it up to where people have been convinced that we, the normal people, actually have some sort of a say in the future of our country, right? The future of our nation, the future of our grandkids, right? But in reality, that is just a more delusion. The politicians are, handpicked by these evil money men, and then they give you the choice of voting for the lesser of two evils, basically, but it's still all evil. And the Republicans and Democrats are, of course, just two wings of the same beast. So it's not really a choice, but it gives people the illusion of choice so that, again, people feel like, and especially in America, there's really no one to revolt against, right? If there was going to be some sort of a revolution. I mean, they change presidents every 4 years or 8 at the most. So it's not like we have a king or a queen per se. That people are going to go bring to the guillotine one day, because the real people in the real seats of power in our democracy, whatever that is, are behind the scenes. They operate from within the shadows. They don't put their faces in public. The politicians that we give so much credit for, doing things during their time in office, they're just puppets. I mean, they're not actually doing anything other than playing a role. It doesn't really matter who's president. It doesn't really matter who you vote for. Anybody that thinks that they give a crap about you, you're wrong. The whole new thing, which is kind of hard to understand, although I think I've got my brain wrapped around it, is the LGBTQs. Nothing against the LGBTQs, but they seem to think that the government gives a crap about them, and they don't. It's merely a means to an end. It is a facade. They don't care about you, I promise. And just wait to the day that the government turns on the LGBTQs, right? Because I'm sorry, but we're not dealing with normal people. We're dealing with spiritual wickedness in high places, indeed. So yeah, the wealthy people got smart, though. They're not gonna become royalties and put a big target on their back. They have a political system that's set up as sort of a proxy where, people can vote on issues and they can vote on politicians that are all corrupt and all inept. The Congress is or the Senate is the definition of inept and just arrogance and ineptitude, really. Totally ineffectual. Wouldn't trust them to make a ham sandwich. But this. So I mentioned the secret societies and the secret oaths, and this is why we get people like Brett Kavanaugh as Supreme Court justices. Which the only reason I'm even mentioning him today is because it was weird. I saw him. There was something about him in an article. And I got to reading the article, and it was from years ago, but it's just funny. Let me see if I can find this dang article again. Yeah, here it is. Okay. So if y'all don't remember Brett Kavanaugh, he's the guy on the thumbnail of this video. Here, I'll turn this around and show you a picture of him. Brett Kavanaugh. Hopefully y'all saw that. Supreme Court Justice. So when he was being vetted or nominated for the Supreme Court, there was this whole big, basically, Me Too thing against him, where he was accused of being very rapey during his high school years. And basically one of the main women, because there were several, but one of the main women that was up against him, claiming that he more or less sexually assaulted her back in high school, was actually him. It was him dressed up as her. And I've made a couple videos about it. But so that right there is a symptom of all of this stuff I'm talking about. And, Brett Kavanaugh was Yale. Wouldn't be surprised if he was Skull and Bones, probably a Freemason, definitely a secret society type, definitely super, wealthy, affluent, which means definitely not evil at all, right? Right. But so this article, this is from way back in 2019, but I got to reading it just today, In the run-up to Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation hearing, the FBI was tasked with conducting a thorough background investigation. Specifically, they were supposed to look into the multiple allegations of sexual misconduct leveled against Kavanaugh. Now, first of all, could you imagine trying to get a job sweeping the hair off of the floor of a barbershop with pending sexual assault allegations against you? Well, not pending, but several past sexual assault, like very serious allegations against you, where like the FBI is doing your background checks. For you or me would never get that job, never get a simple job, let alone Supreme Court justice, right? But because these people are selected, not elected, it's all a theater, it's all a facade, really. They put on these shows like it's all a big game to them or something. But the FBI couldn't figure out that Christine Blasey Ford was actually Brett Kavanaugh. Like, I'll try to remember to put a couple of links in the descripts, but I've got a couple of videos where I break it down, and it's, in my opinion, it's pretty obvious that Brett Kavanaugh was also Christine Blasey Ford. What's up, Sea Lightning? And so the whole Senate hearing thing with Brett Kavanaugh was when he was out on the floor for the hearing, she was nowhere to be found. They did like a 3 or 4 hour thing with her first, and then they did a lunch break and they tore everything down and put it back together. And after lunch, they came back and it was all Brett Kavanaugh for the rest of the day. But these two people have identical hands, identical faces, right down to like a little scar on the chin. Clearly, they used state-of-the-art makeup techniques and stuff like that. I mean, clearly there was a lot of work put into it, but you never saw them in the same room together, which I'm convinced, again, if you haven't seen the videos that I did, one of them's about Finkel and Einhorn, where it starts off with the whole Ace Ventura bit, which is kind of funny. And then the other one was right before that. Two videos I did about it. Check that out if you're not familiar with it, because if you need any sort of confirmation that this government is through and through corrupt and inept, beyond just things like NASA, look no further than the Senate. Because either they're so corrupt that they allowed that to happen right in front of their face, and same thing with the FBI, or they're so inept that that sort of thing's happening right in front of their faces and they just don't see it. It's absolutely crazy. But the fact that a Supreme Court justice would be so brazen as to put on a dress and pretend to be his own sexual assault accuser in a Senate hearing, that's pretty damn brazen. I mean, it goes to show you that they're not really concerned with what the general public sees or has to say about any of that. And this is why I said, you know, anybody that's in the LGBTQ sort of fam or whatever, and you think that the government actually gives a damn about you, dude, you got another thing coming. They will use you, chew you up and spit you out in a minute. So if you were wondering who the handsome gentleman was on the left-hand side of the title card there, that's who it was Brett Kavanaugh. He's still Supreme Court justice to this day because, well, not only does a Supreme Court justice come with diced tomatoes and sour cream, but they also get that seat for life. It's saying here, though, again, from this article, after the investigation was completed, several Republican lawmakers used it as the basis for their decision to vote to confirm Kavanaugh as Supreme Court justice, including the previously undecided Senator Jeff Flake from Arizona, Senator Mitch McConnell of Kentucky. The majority leader implied that the report exonerated Kavanaugh completely. But now a new book suggests the probe may have been less than thorough. if accurate, this would present a big mistake on part of the FBI. Without the truth, a cloud will hang over Kavanaugh's head and an asterisk will accompany his decisions. The only way to repair the damage is for Congress to pick up where the FBI left off. Kavanaugh had appeared to be destined for confirmation in 2018 when multiple allegations surfaced that he had engaged in sexual misconduct as a high school and college student in the 1980s. Christine Blasey Ford, also known as Brett friggin' Kavanaugh, a California professor, testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee that during high school, a drunken Kavanaugh dragged her into a bedroom at a house party, threw her onto a bed, pinned her with his body, and groped her. Then came another allegation by a Deborah Ramirez. You know, I haven't even looked at Deborah Ramirez, but I can only imagine Blasey Ford was enough because indeed, it's definitely him. It's definitely 100%. Brett Kavanaugh was his Me Too accuser, Christine Blasey Ford. And so it would be kind of fun. I think it would be interesting to look at the other ones. One of them being Stormy Daniels, I think was somehow connected to it, or maybe I'm crossing my wires there, but it was several women accused this dude of really awful sexual assault crimes. And yet and still he was able to pass an FBI background check whilst pretending to be one of his own accusers, and no problemo, he made it all the way right through to the top, right? So, prime example of how just evil, deceptive, crazy people wind up with all the money and all the prestige, and still you'll find people in the truther community that adhere to these social constructs, to these social norms where, you know, people are judged based on the numbers in their bank account, very much so. And frankly, I think I kind of do that in an inverted style. Like, I mean, I hate to say it, but usually people that are loaded with a lot of money and people like Brett Kavanaugh, who are deceptive, well, let's just put it this way. They're not exactly people that you want to have over for dinner, not exactly people that you want to hang out with in your free time. So, and certainly not people that I would like let babysit my dog or anything, or trust them, again, to even make a proper sandwich, right? So, yeah. We've been bamboozled, folks. It's really time for us to wake up. And I do believe that the whole flurfer incentive, or the whole flurfer mission, rather, is probably the best antidote for this great deception. Like, it really is key. Because once you realize that they've been lying about, like, the damn ground that you walk on since you were a little kid, like, these people are willing to deceive entire generations of little kids in order to control the money, control the wealth, and control everybody, basically forcing us into indentured servitude. Again, I don't even really think you can call them human. I mean, they're definitely spiritual wickedness in high places, but, like, at what point do these people stop even being considered human because they are so inhumane, right? So callous, just no empathy, not capable of it. I think it's high time that we all, you know, try to band together, stop letting them divide us on such petty and divisive, frivolous things, trivial things that do divide people these days, and focus our collective angst against the ones that caused this shitstorm in the first place, you know. And I think it's coming, man. Like, I think it's unavoidable. You know, hopefully we'll see it in our lifetimes where things are changed for the better. But I don't think that that's possible without some sort of a catalyzing event like a new Pearl Harbor, right? No, we're not going to go there. But yeah, they convinced everyone somehow that we need them. We need their evil and corrupt government in order to handle things like nuclear bombs and NASA with their whole hoax. We need these evil fucktards to handle the money. We need them to also, handle the taxes because, the IRS is definitely a productive agency. And we need them to prevent inflation with the Fed, right? So it's like, when does this end? Like the gig is up, the jig is up, the jig is up. We're on to them. We're on to them from the water supply being poisoned with sodium fluoride to NASA. We're on to them about the money supply. We're on to them about the military industrial complex, the Freemasonic secret societies that operate by covet means, like JFK said. When does it end? Like, what do we have to do? And this is sort of a rhetorical question, but I tend to be optimistic about the future, man. Sea Lightning 300 says the moon actually illuminates in 2 seconds during the day. Watch for it turn on either 20 minutes earlier or 20 minutes later in the day in the southeast. Yeah, I think I remember going back and forth with you about something about that. I kind of got it. I was a little lost. I'd have to see it. I'm more of a visual learner. But what this all boils down to really is, as long as we participate in this system, we are actively and even knowingly participating in our own enslavement. And it's sad, but I don't, honestly, without, and I think with the help of the Creator, with the help of the Most High, all things are definitely possible. I've got faith. But really, we need miracles, man. Sure, we don't have it as bad off as, say, the people in Palestine right now that are literally getting ethnically cleansed and bombed to oblivion, innocent men, women, and children getting slaughtered and butchered. We don't have it quite that bad, but we are, sort of in a meat grinder of our own flavor, right? You could argue it's more insidious because we've been, or for the most part, people in America and in the West in general, have been convinced that we are somehow free and somehow, in control of our destinies. But really, more and more every day, I believe that to be just a facade, a grand delusion, a pipe dream, if you will. Another bit of news. So what is this with the North Korean satellite? Because, one of the things that we know for sure is that the North Koreans are supposedly definitely our enemies, right? South Koreans good, North Koreans bad guys, right? Isn't that what it is? Right. So in the news today, and this would be like Reuters and Al Jazeera. I'll go to Al Jazeera. North Korea says spy satellite launch is successful. So now North Korea is claiming to have satellites in space. Now, you and I both know they are, of course, totally lying, absolutely full of it, because space doesn't exist. And, well, satellites, okay, technically, satellites kind of exist if you're talking about the kind that are attached to high altitude weather balloons. Those definitely exist. Geostationary satellites orbiting the Earth 22,000 miles away? Absolutely not. But North Korea says spy satellite launch is successful. The North Korean space authorities say that the launch vehicle places the Malagyeong-1 satellite into orbit as the U.S. condemns this brazen violation of UN resolutions. So, wait a minute. That's like, okay, love them or hate them, love North Korea or hate them. How can we say that them launching satellites is a brazen violation of anything? Like, why are they not allowed to have satellites? Hypothetically, even though we all know satellites don't exist, but why is the U.S. government giving these people so much credit? Because again, we know satellites couldn't possibly exist, so it's bullshit. So why are they going along with North Korea's claim that they have successfully launched a satellite? Like, what is the cahoots? What is the secret allegiance between the United States and North Korea, I wonder? Out of curiosity, I wonder what Malikyong means in Korean. Any Korean viewers out there know off the top of your head? Let me just see if I can find out real quick. Well, not real quick. It's going to take me a minute. But as fast as I can possibly find out, I'm looking to see what does Malikyong mean. But I have not yet opened the tab that I'm trying to open. So here we go. Define, oh, come on. Here we go. Define. Come on, baby. It's brutal. Okay, there we go. Define. Forgot what I was even looking up. Oh, yeah. No, it's froze. Okay. Korean. Malikyong. I wonder what that means. I am just so curious. But it does take me several minutes to do a simple internet search, so I apologize. It is so frustrating. I swear, I'd be ripping my hair out sometimes, you guys. Oh, especially when I'm trying to do editing. Not to sit here and gripe. I'll gripe while this thing loads, but so I'll be like trying to edit a video and I'll have to jump back and forth from like Sony Acid Pro to InDesign to the internet. And it's like, oh my God, it is brutal. It's like right now, the only thing I'm running is Internet Explorer. Okay. Oh, okay. So Malikyong 1, it just means telescope 1. Okay. Launched on November 21st, 2023. It is intended to be North Korea's first spy satellite and will be used to spy on South Korea and American targets. Oh, wow. So isn't it kind of funny, though, that we just recently in the news had the Chinese spy balloon, but now North Korea is allegedly launching up spy satellites? Where are they going with this? Like, I know that these world news events aren't just pulled out of thin air. I mean, it's clearly a hoax. They're clearly, obviously lying because no such thing as satellites actually exist. But why are they, again, I just don't understand why they're going along with this claim that North Korea has a spy satellite. Okay. So right before I started, there was someone in the comments saying they wanted to talk about the Antarctica midnight sun. I guess there was some sort of a conversation they had with a professor or something. And I've never been to Antarctica. I have seen the videos where they appear to be cleverly jump cutting. I almost said the wrong thing there. Jump cutting the to make it look like the 24-hour sun in Antarctica. But it's pretty obvious at this point. I mean, the bilateral symmetry that would be required of the globe, like in the northern Arctic and the southern Arctic, doesn't appear to be there. I've personally never been to the Antarctic or the Arctic, so I can't speak on it, but I would say that definitely more direct research is needed. And I love it. It would tickle me pink to one day see NASA disbanded and their budget actually applied to real exploration, like here on the ground in reality. Not to mention like SpaceX being disbanded and Virgin and all of those free rerees. Any tax dollars going to space could be way better applied to domestic programs like stuff here on the ground in reality. And it, what my point is, I would go explore Antarctica and beyond if we had, $50 million a day to do it. Like, I don't even understand how someone could spend $50 million a day on anything. It's amazing amount of money. Wasted money. But what is money anyway, right? It literally is like these debt notes of evil. Like it's like evil personified. So like I personally, I don't know. I don't necessarily like being poor and destitute, but at the same time, I've seen what money does to people. And anybody that said money can't buy you happiness obviously was rich, because if you're poor, money can certainly alleviate the stressors in life and prevent you from like having an early heart attack or something. But at the same time, once you reach a certain point with, if you've got all of your basic needs taken care of, then it's almost like an addiction. You always want more than you have. And frankly, I try to leave addictions alone. It's bad enough that I smoke cigarettes, which is my admittedly worst addiction. Cigarettes, in my opinion, are way harder to quit than like drinking alcohol or even other things like pain pills and stuff. Cigarettes are a bad motherfucker. They're hard. But it's going to be my resolution. I got to quit, man. I think I mentioned the other day, I was traveling to the store and there was a guy that was trying to push his car up the hill. So I parked and helped him push up the hill for it wasn't even a minute or two. And man, I thought I was going to die. And I've never been that out of breath. It's been a while since I was like a youngin' doing playing football and stuff like that. But I've always been, rather cardiovascularly capable. And it really shocked me how in bad a shape I am. So let's quit smoking this new year, guys. Do it with me. Who's going to do it with me? Yeah, there, motherfucker Ben Porter. I agree, man. So I think that basically covers everything I wanted to cover. There was one thing I was going to talk about. I'm not going to do it. It's just I don't want to violate any YouTube policies. So think, should I do like a members only thing on Rumble or something? Whenever I've tried to do stuff on Rumble, nobody watches it, and so it's kind of pointless for me. I mean, I could try to do stuff because there's certain things you can't say on YouTube. It's just the way that it is. Like certain things I know better. I'm not even gonna bring certain things up. But I think that if I was to move over to Rumble and do something like a patrons only stream, that might be something I would consider, but y'all let me know what you think about that sort of thing in the comments. But anyways, all right, y'all. I'm going to wrap this one up. We've been going over an hour, so that's long. Oh, it's 4:20, y'all. Fire it up for me. That's a good time to end it. Fire one up for me, y'all. I'm going to burn one down too, But I appreciate y'all hanging out with me. It's good to see you. Thanks again so much to the channel supporters. If you'd like to help out, links below. One love, and I will see y'all very soon in the next one. And if I don't see you by Thanksgiving again, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Don't forget to hug and kiss a Native American. All right, y'all. Y'all are the best. Love you. Bye.